Yo everybody, it's Tripl-L and now it's time to talk Darling in the Franxx episode 10. Wow, great, cool, episode 10. So last week I didn't do an episode impressions just because last week we had a podcast for Darling in the Franxx and we kind of covered the majority of our thoughts there. That being that Godo is, well, he's the best boy and we all want him to live. That was pretty much the general thing that we took from last week's episode. This week's episode, however, we just dive into like giving us some information about the adult, and it just kind of clears up some things that we could be thinking about the adult, and it introduces a few little things to the adult, and we also get an introduction of, well, we get further talk about the long-term goal here, that being the Grand Crevice, and yeah. So we're gonna get into this episode. Overall, when I look at it, like, it's an episode that has some pretty cool details in it, but really it's a kind of awkward episode, just because this episode is working more off of the character. It's a more character-driven episode, but the only thing is that once it gets hard into Zorome's part, it's just him talking to an old lady, right? And the old lady herself isn't that compelling other than the novelty of her being, well, an info dump for the world of adults. Compound that with just this general slow dialogue in the episode, and also just the way that Zorome is interacting with this old lady, and it just ends up being it's a time. It's definitely a time, but it's not the most compelling thing in the world. I think using Zorome for the exposition of the adult world was a pretty good move, given what the studio's been kind of doing with Zorome in general. Like, we know he has the most investment when it comes to the characters, or sorry, when it comes to the adult, but after a certain point, you know, it is a bit of a weird episode. So let's start talking about some of the things here. So one of the things that I think is the worst offender, and just that it makes the whole situation really awkward, is that there's this predominant theme throughout the episode of Zorome remembering when he was born. Like when you have him at the beginning talking about the light that he saw at the end of the tunnel, then he was crying when he came out. The kid's remembering his birth, all right? And then you have it carrying over to this adult here later on, and he's like, you know, being with you, I like feel something familiar, you know, I feel, and then like the implication would be, well, he's thinking that this person is his mother, right? And it's just like, no. The odds of that happening, and it's just like, no, let's not do that, right? So it's just a very awkward situation. It just paints the picture this kid would gravitate to anyone who's being a motherly figure. Now, there is a level of tragedy to that, but you know, it just ends up being more awkward than it's not. Anyway, on the flip side is the general intrigue that we get from the adult. Now, like, when you look at the adult world, like, without a doubt, I think the adult world is very sterilized. And throughout the episode, we have them talking about the kids as if they are infections. And right, when you call them parasites, it's like, okay, that's a pretty clear indicator of how the adults view the parasites when you're calling them a freaking parasite. But the thing here that I want to take away is, like, you know, the adults make it seem as though Zorome and the rest of the kids are infected. Like, you have people scanning them. You even have one of the adults talking condescendingly to him, saying that he is kind of like a victim and we shouldn't be mad at him, which is a very interesting point of view, right? But then you have, like, you look at the old lady. She clearly has life support. She has that fake heart. She's being given a new heart at the end of the episode. And then you consider what the Ape Council was saying at the very beginning about, you know, their society is about uniformity and so. But, like, you know, they're saying that the kids are infected, and maybe they do have an actual disease. But when I look at this, what I see is just society closed itself off to such a horrific degree that it destroyed the immune systems of the people living in there. Like, those adults have compromised immune systems. That's what I see when they're all talking about Zorome being infected and the adults not wanting to get infected. And when you think about uniformity, like, you could also, like, go into that idea of, like, well, how far did they apply uniformity into, like, the gene pool here, right? Given everything that we've seen, given the face coverings, given that these people do not want to go outside of their buildings, given that the kids can go outside and can interact with natural flora and fauna, tells me, in general, the kids have stronger immune systems, and the only reason that they're a liability to the adults is that the adults live closed off lives, and they would be screwed if they went outside. That's what I'm thinking so far. And I really think whatever disease the kids have, I doubt it's an actual disease. I'm more inclined to believe the kids are much more suited for the outside world than the adults are. Anyway, the majority of everything else that we get from this old lady is just then the thing with her husband, and like that marriage is an antiquated process that they still just do to comfort each other, and like they live generally solitary lives. Like, yeah, that just goes further to kind of push the narrative of like this might be a very sterile world, and it might be one of those things where people are just getting like really screwed up. Like if these people were without their machines, they would die. That's, I think, without a doubt, these people are weaker than the kids. So that's the majority of the cool stuff that I really wanted to share for the episode. I mean, other than that, like there's just nice little things about being happy. Like the kids are happy that they're being rewarded, and you know, they have the ape council pointing out like, oh yeah, medals are something that the old people used to like and whatever. So you know, there is world building happening on the side. But the main force for this episode was an old lady and a child, and the child is the only one we actually might have any investment in. The old lady was just, you know, awkward to have to watch. Those are my general thoughts for the old lady. And throughout the beginning and the end of the story, we have things with 02 happening. She's growing fangs, and we have just her condition in general being pretty lousy. So yeah, those are my general thoughts for the episode. And it was funny, like I put up the preview for this episode earlier in the week, and that first little scene of battle, you know, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be at the beginning of the episode. There's no way that's gonna be a scene in the middle of the episode. And that's exactly what we got. Darling in the Franxx right now is focusing on having fun with its characters. And you know, there is a question to be had there whether or not this is the right time to do it. Like, you have the big climactic moment with Hiro like 3 episodes back, and then you have just these slice of life episodes. Personally for me, I would enjoy slice of life episodes after we finish the main plot, because then it's like, okay, we've stuck with these characters all the way throughout their horrible journey. I'm cool watching a few episodes of them being happy. But in this case, it's just, you know, like to some degree, these characters haven't earned anything for their happiness yet. In the sense that they haven't gone through the main story yet. So other things that I want to just mention is like, I'm wondering when all these plot points are going to come back for us. You know, how is this thing going to affect Zorome at the end? But then again, when you have the episode saying that Zorome just kind of forgot about today, like this episode's events as time went on, you know, that's pretty bad. And it's pretty bad. Pretty much saying that this event had no real effect on him. That's probably a big problem. One last note I want to say is that I realized that the Ape Council, they look like monkeys. The one that I realized was the guy with the blue little highlights on his mask. He looks like Rafiki from Lion King. He's pretty much a baboon. Then you look at this guy, that's probably a monkey. So yeah, there you go. The Ape Council, you know, funnily enough, they have masks that look like monkeys or primates. Just funny. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let's call it there. Till next time, I hope you have a great day.